Sadiq Khan, hello.
Good to be with you again.
Likewise. On this iPad, I have some messages for you, / some remarks
Okay.
from a gentleman across the Atlantic. You might be familiar with him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Friend of mine.
President Donald Trump. I was wondering if you would care to read them out. We'll have a little bit of discussion. We'll see where we go.
Okay, is this adult viewing only then?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
He's a stone cold loser who should focus on crime in London, not me. I quite like stone cold loser. I might have that on a t-shirt.
Yeah? Stone Cold Loser. Commodify it, sell
Yeah,
some
it
t-shirts.
works. Wouldn't it be great if we made money out of stone cold loser? Let's do that.
Yeah.
Khan, K-A-H-N, reminds me very much of our very dumb and incompetent mayor of NYC, de Blasio, who has also done a terrible job only half his height. Well, firstly, it's K-H-A-N.
4 letters.
Secondly, look, I'm embracing my shortness. I'm quite proud of being short. I quite like it. But thirdly, listen, I'd rather be short than be facing an impeachment.
Let's get to the next one.
The next one is a tweet which says, I kept hearing that there would be, in quotations, massive rallies against me in the UK, but it's quite the opposite. Well, firstly, I mean, Trump's got a record of getting size wrong. I mean, by crowd size, of course.
Yes, of course, yeah.
We know about his inauguration and how it was the biggest ever number of people watching an inauguration period. And but the fact is, look, in London during his state visit, many Londoners did take part in massive rallies against him, objecting to a state visit being given to somebody whose policies and values are the opposite of ours. He's somebody who divides communities, and here in London, we don't simply tolerate each other, we respect, celebrate and embrace it. So I'm really proud that in London there were massive rallies during his state visit. I grew up watching Spitting Image, and the idea that you'll be offended by a blimp I find peculiar. And if the leader of the free world, if the president of the USA can be so offended by a blimp, then it begs a number of questions. Okay, the next one says, many people would like to see Nigel Farage represent Great Britain as their ambassador to the United States. He would do a great job. I mean, look, I love America and love Americans. I'm not sure we should inflict Farage on anyone, let alone people or countries that have got Donald Trump as their president. But there's a serious point here, which is Donald Trump, Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson are kindred spirits. And people should remember that when it comes to the NHS, when it comes to your views on race and religion and women, and when it comes to values. There is a reason why the biggest advocate for Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson is Donald Trump.
Okay, so this is a video.
Shall I play it?
Yeah, go on.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything.
So,
Well, look, this is sexual assault, plain and simple. This man does not respect women. And I'm of the view that only weak men fear strong women. He's a weak man.
so there's no subtitles on this.
And she looks down with contempt on the hard-working American, saying that ignorance is pervasive in many parts of this country. And obviously and importantly, Omar has a history of launching vicious anti-Semitic screeds.
I mean, look, this is racism, plain and simple. Plain and simple. And if you look at London and look at America, one of the great things about London and America is our diversity. But also one of the reasons why we are so great is the contribution made by immigrants and refugees. And it's heartbreaking to think that the leader of a great country like the USA is clearly a racist. And we should have no equivocation about this. What he said is racist, and it clearly exhibits racism. And when you've got the leader of the free world, when you've got the president of the USA legitimizing things that are clearly racist, that used to be said just by the far right and the extreme right, It's hardly surprising when they're used by mainstream commentators and politicians, and it's given them confidence to say those things out in the open, but also given them confidence to exhibit that racism in things that can lead to criminal damage, physical abuse, and also assaults.
Let's go to the next one.
Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? And by the way, all the people he's talking about are people of colour. I've got family in Pakistan and India, and they look to us with respect and reverence, our human rights, our respect of others, the civility with which we treat others. And the idea that you've got leading the USA, a figure like this who says these things, but also the leader of our country, Boris Johnson, who said some of the things that he has said, not only is heartbreaking for those who love our respective countries, but also it should embolden us on this side of the Atlantic to realise why it's so important that we stand up for our values and stand up against this man and his values. I'm born and raised in London, and this is my home. My grandparents migrated from India to Pakistan. My parents from Pakistan to London. I ain't going nowhere. This is my home, and that's why language matters. Pakistan's not my home. India's not my home. I'm a South London boy. And so it's difficult to explain to those who've not experienced this how deeply upsetting it is. It goes towards our psyche. If you're a person of colour, you understand when I say your heart starts beating faster at immigration border control at airports. But referencing home means certain things to people of colour, people who have come from different countries of origin. Of course it's offensive, of course it's upsetting. And you long for the time where people accept us for who we are, which is proud Brits, proud Londoners. Yeah, of course we're different, but it's one of the joys of being a Londoner. Well, this is a tweet from him where he says, people, the lawyers and the courts can call it whatever they want, but I'm calling it what we need and what it is, a travel ban. And look, this is Islamophobic, plain and simple. The idea that you ban somebody simply because of the religion he or she belongs to.
What was the first thing you thought when you heard about his plan to do this?
Well, I remember it was put to me that actually a journalist had put to Donald Trump when he said this, that Mr. Trump, you do realise that if you have this travel ban, the mayor of London will not be allowed to visit the USA. And Donald Trump said, well, actually, I'll make an exception for the mayor of London. And I responded, don't make an exception for me. There's nothing exceptional about me. This is about all the other Muslims around the world. This is a tweet where he said, I'm reading verbatim, so apologise, I'm reading what he said. Thank you to respected columnist Katie Hopkins of dailymail.com for her powerful writing on the UK's Muslim problems. Well, look, she's been called many things, but not a respected columnist. This is somebody who called immigrants cockroaches and has said some things that are clearly racist. And this is just one example of the sort of people around the world who see Donald Trump as their hero and their poster boy. It can't be a coincidence that some pretty unsavoury characters in our country, Stephen Yaxley-Lenin, Britain First, pretty unsavoury characters in France like Le Pen, Salvini in Italy, Duda in Poland, Orban in Hungary, the Ku Klux Klan in the USA, idolise and hold in reverence Donald Trump. And, I'm a firm believer in you judging somebody by the friends they have. This guy is a kindred spirit of Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. And what you're seeing now is somebody who writes for a mainstream publication talking about, and I quote, Muslim problems. And you're planting the seed into the minds of people about Muslim problems, quote unquote. But also, you imagine if you live in part of the country where you haven't got friends, family, neighbours, colleagues who are Muslim. The only impression you've got to go on what Muslims are is by reading stuff like this, which talks about Muslim problems. And that's why it's worth examining the language used by racists and bigots. There's a very clever reason they use the language that they do, and we've got to call them out.
There's one more there, I think.
So shouldn't the National Health Service be on the table?
Look, I think everything with a trade deal is on the table. When you're dealing on trade, everything's on the table. So NHS or anything else, or a lot more than that.
I mean, look, you've heard it from the horse's mouth. Everything will be on the table, and that includes the NHS. So Donald Trump wants to get his hand on the NHS. Boris Johnson clearly has no problems with American companies getting their hands on the NHS, but also we now know there have been secret talks between our country and the USA. What could have happened at the very first of these secret talks is no, the NHS is not up for grabs. That didn't happen. In my view, the NHS is one of the very best public services we have. It shouldn't be up for grabs, certainly not from Americans like him.
Boris Johnson has repeatedly said that the NHS is not for sale. You don't think he's credible when he says that?
Well, look at the evidence. I'm old-fashioned as a former lawyer. Look what Donald Trump has said. Look at the more than 400 pages published of the secret talks. Look at Boris Johnson's track records in making promises and keeping them. And, a leopard doesn't change its spots. And if it is the case that everything's on the table, including the NHS, we shouldn't just be worried about the NHS, we should be worried about other public services as well. And that's why the choice in this election is quite straightforward. A Brexit-backing government led by Boris Johnson, or a Labour government that will give the British public a say, do you want to leave the EU with all that entails, or do you want to remain in the EU?
Is Donald Trump welcome in London?
Look, I think it's really important for us to have a good relationship with the leader of a country with whom we have a special relationship. What I'm not in favour is of the red carpet being rolled out. What I'm not in favour of is the Prime Minister of our country not willing to say boo to a goose. My criticism of both Theresa May and Boris Johnson is they behave like sycophants, sucking up to this guy. I'm not asking for a Hugh Grant Love Actually moment. What I'm asking for is Boris Johnson and our Prime Minister to stand up for our values, to stand up for our NHS, to stand up for what we believe in, and to say no to Donald Trump. But one of the things that I've said in the past, and I'll say it again, is I'm more than happy to educate Donald Trump in pluralism, in about what it means to be a Londoner, and about the possibility of being both a proud Londoner and a proud Muslim, a proud Westerner and a proud Muslim. I'm really happy to show Donald Trump strong, courageous, confident women. I think ignorance is a big issue here. The word prejudice comes from prejudging. I'm willing to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt that he's prejudged the other. He's prejudged Mexicans. He's prejudged women. He's prejudged the LGBT plus community. He's prejudged Muslims. He's prejudged London. But it takes two to tango. And so what I'd say to Donald Trump is I'm more than happy to meet with you and to educate you on what it means to be a Londoner and what it means to be a Westerner who understands and practices the liberal values that our two countries fought so hard with huge sacrifice to make sure we had.
Sadiq Khan, thank you.
Cheers.